Joy, and welcome once again to It Came From the Radio, the official show of the Big Apple Con. This is your host, Mark Torres speaking. We're here live at the East Meadow Public Library for our 82nd live show. And I'm here with my co-host, Man Jenny Feldy.
Hello, everyone.
And we have our special guest we're going to be talking to, with, and about, which is awesome because he's right here. It's Archie writer and illustrator, Francis Bonnet.
Greetings, everybody.
Hello.
So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking to Francis in just a few minutes, but before we do any of that, we have to take it away with the news. The news is brought to you in part by the fine folks at sci-fi.radio. That's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. As well as the fine folks of the Big Apple Con, in which we are the official radio show of, celebrating over 26, 7, 8, 9 years of accomplishments in pop culture stuff. For more information, go to www.bigapplecc.com. The next convention is scheduled for November the 23rd, and tickets are on sale now, so you can buy tickets now and then wait 4 months before you can go to the convention. Also want to give out shout outs to our Patreons, of which there are Danny Grill, award-winning director Jared Burrell, Kyle Horn, Millie Portes, News Day famous Liz Media, Unchikun, Shadow Rabbit Art, Yasmin Ray, Rosa, and the Huracan. Want to have your own little shout out? Go to our website, www.itcamefromtheradio.com, and there's a little button on there that takes you right to our Patreon page. Also on the It Came From the Radio website is my book, Designated, a book about two warring alien races fighting over a newly discovered power source. The war finds its way to planet Earth, and as a result, some humans gain abilities. Issue 1 is on sale, and issue 2 is in pre-orders right now. As always, we start off with the sad news, and we only have one bit of sad news for this week.
Hallelujah.
Actor Doug Sheehan died recently. As of this recording, which is July the 10th, 2024, no cause of death has been announced. While Doug was in a handful of TV shows, he is perhaps best known for his role of Joe Kelly on the daytime soap opera General Hospital, which his stint was from 1978 to 1983. He played the dad in 44 episodes of the series Clueless, based on the film of the same name. He played the father in 33 episodes of the sitcom Day by Day, and he also played Sabrina the Teenage Witch's dad in the original series on ABC with Melissa Joan Hart. And my personal favorite, he played Ben Gibson on 115 episodes of Knots Landing. Now, as I mentioned many times on the show, was a huge Knots Landing fan, primetime show, and he was Valine Ewing's second husband. So Valine was the person who was in Dallas, and then Knots Landing was a spin-off of Dallas back in the day, and Knots Landing was it was the second longest running, at the time, primetime show. And then it got beat out by, I think, Law and Order, which, blew away by miles and miles. But what made it interesting is that he was the original concept of the show was that the two people from Dallas left to go live in a cul-de-sac in California, and that's how Knots Landing happened. And the two main characters from Dallas who went over were married, and then they were cheating on, they got divorced, and so she had a second husband. And what made it interesting is that his character, one season, just vanished. And they said that because he was a journalist, and in the show, he went off to do some investigative journaling, and that was like a mystery as to whatever happened to him. And me, as a kid, I did not know there was like contract negotiations about actors and stuff. I just thought people just show up or don't show up. And then I was always under the impression, because the actor was alive, that he would come back to the show, and spoilers, he never did. And they just mentioned, he died. And I was like, what kind of a disappointing ending to this character? He just vanishes off the show, and then he was never mentioned again. Did you ever watch Knots Landing?
I did not.
Francis, Knots Landing?
I have not. Of those shows you mentioned, Sabrina
Teenage Witch. Yeah. So Sabrina's dad. Well, I mean, you're Archie. I think it's a law. You have to watch all the Archie stuff, right?
It's the law. I mean, there's a lot to watch, especially like some of the old cartoons, and there's like a live-action Archie movie that I've never seen from
Back to Riverdale.
Not Riverdale, but it was from like
no. It was called Back to Riverdale.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, on NBC.
Back to Riverdale. Yeah, I think maybe I saw it when I was a kid, but I don't remember.
So do you remember
Sabrina's
dad?
Yeah,
in that
Sabrina,
show?
I remember, and that was a funny. It was corny, but it was a funny show.
Yeah, it was a fun show.
You were a Sabrina Teenage Witch fan? Also?
Yeah, and the new one too,
I love
on
the
Netflix.
new one. I think the new one was great.
People say the new one is satanic.
Well, it's got some of that in there, but it's a fun show. It's fun. It's dark. Not as dark as the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comic.
Wow, the comic is more scary?
It's a little darker. I think they lightened it up a little bit.
Really?
Like it's a little more bloody.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Huh. I had no idea. So,
Check it out.
You got a lot more people
I had nothing to do with it.
protesting
So,
People were protesting that show on Netflix. So, anyway, R.I.P.
Yes, so he was,
75, is a
75
few
years
years
old.
older than the average age of death. So there you go. Congrats, I guess.
Congrats.
What is the average age?
I think it's 71, 72. I was just told, but you know what? I haven't checked this year.
So that's it for the sad news.
Hmm.
So we're going to go on to the not as sad news.
Fantastic.
From the That's a Lot of Nuts department. The new Despicable Me sequel, which is part 4, has taken the #1 spot in the domestic box office, pulling in $75 million in ticket sales in its first week release, beating out the new Inside Out sequel 2, which came in at the #2 spot, making an additional $30.3 million in its 4th week of release. For those of you keeping track, Inside Out Part 2 is still the highest grossing film of this year so far, with $534.1 million, followed by Doom Part 2, which is at $282.1 million. What's interesting is that this movie has made so much money for Pixar in such a small amount of time, and it's already globally their highest grossing movie ever for that company, which is crazy. Have you seen Inside Out 2?
No.
Have you seen Inside Out 1?
No.
Oh, then you don't have to see Inside Out 2.
Is it about like people's skin being on the outside, like the organs being on the outside?
That's a different
I
movie.
would watch that.
Yeah, that's what I always think when I hear it.
That's a very different movie.
Like the heart, maybe like the arteries are sticking out.
That's a very different movie.
That would be cool.
Did you see Inside Out?
I have not seen Inside Out. One of the few Pixar movies I haven't seen.
And you have a kid, right?
I do have a kid. Well, I have almost a 2-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Okay.
So
Isn't that the target audience?
it is.
Yeah,
But
2-year-olds
I don't know
love
why we.
Pixar.
Well, right now she's watching like Winnie the Pooh, Moana, all this stuff on Disney Plus.
Ah.
I don't think Inside Out 2 is on Disney Plus yet because it's in the theater.
Right, it just came out here.
But I never actually saw the first. I need to watch it.
Okay.
I heard it was good.
So as a parent, do you have to watch stuff before you watch stuff with your kids,
that's
or
a good question.
you just hear it's family friendly and you're just gonna go for it?
It depends. Like usually I would just watch. Like for a 2-year-old, like she doesn't have the attention span to sit through a 2-hour movie anyway. Like most of the stuff she watches, like I said, like Winnie the Pooh,
Right.
short stuff. For Disney stuff, as long as it's like rated PG at the most, I think she would.
Alright, fair enough.
If you watch Let Her Watch R, then she'll maybe come out like me, because I watched R-rated stuff as a child.
Okay, so no rated R movies until
So.
she's 30.
I used to watch stuff also as a kid. I used to
You
watch
watched
like The
R-rated?
Exorcist.
Whoa,
when I was
as
a
like a
kid.
5-year-old?
Yeah, I used to watch all those.
Yeah, I used to watch
Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched
all that stuff. When
Yeah.
I was a kid, they just put it on TV and then you watch stuff.
Yeah, they edit out all the
They
stuff,
edit out all
yeah.
the stuff, but then you watch that stuff and they let a lot of stuff slide
Back
Yeah.
then,
back then on regular TV.
Really?
Because I felt that up until I saw The Ring, The Exorcist was the scariest movie I had ever seen, and the scene with the stomach when they wrote the letter, that was freaky, and
Yeah.
that was something I don't think that would have even been something that they would have now for that rating. But it's crazy how I used to watch that stuff back in the day. So moving on
Okay.
from let's with this one. Well, that's good to know department. None other than Netflix has announced that the new Beverly Hills Cop sequel, which is called Axel F, was the most watched title on Netflix during the first week of release, hitting 41 million views in its first 5 days of streaming. Did you see the new Beverly Hills Cop?
I haven't seen it yet.
Haven't seen it. You've seen it.
I actually saw most of it.
And what did you think of it?
I loved it. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm still going, but yeah.
Were you
couple
a
minutes
fan?
left.
Were you a fan of the originals?
I
Did you
saw
see
them
the
so
original?
long ago that I forgot. Like, I just, some of these things came out 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
40 years
don't,
ago.
yeah, I don't even remember. But yeah, I definitely watched them for sure. Yeah.
So I saw the other three in theaters.
Wow.
And I wasn't much of a fan of the first one. I really loved the second one.
Okay.
The third one I just did not like at all.
Okay.
And this one, I was like, I was very apprehensive about it. We talked about this on the show that they were gonna make it, and there's such a long time apart, and then it's going to come out on Netflix. You know, like if they had confidence in it to be a good movie,
Mhm.
it'd be in theaters.
Yeah.
But
It is though. Isn't
it was good.
It's also in theaters though.
No,
Did it
no,
have
It's in
limited-
some. I know someone
Did it
who's
have a
seeing it in
limited-
theaters
a
this week.
super limited release.
Yes,
That was in 2 theaters.
Right.
Yeah,
There's
I
some
mean, that's-
because I know someone.
You say
Glenn
it's in-
McBride is seeing it like for the 3rd time in theaters. So I know it's in theaters because he posts about it every 2 hours, telling us he's seeing it for like a 9th time.
So he saw it in all 3 theaters.
He's seeing it like everywhere.
I think it's like a clause in the contracts that it has to be in a theater
Oh.
to qualify for certain things.
Okay, interesting.
And so it can not, because it's in a theater, it can qualify for Oscars and all
Oh.
the
Does my
awards.
elementary school auditorium count?
It has to be a theater.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but I remember reading about this one movie to fulfill contractual obligations. The guy rented out a theater
Oh, wow.
and put the movie in the theater, and he
Smart.
sold like 2 tickets, but
Uh-huh.
it qualified
Right.
as a movie, so it can be up for like whatever SAG or whatever
Right,
things.
right.
It was like
Wow.
a clause,
Uh-huh.
and and it was I don't know if it was a good movie, I don't know if it was a bad movie,
Yeah.
but the fact that he went out of his way to rent out the theater to say it's in the movies,
Right.
so that fulfills his obligation. So
Right,
I
right.
think that's what
Very
Netflix
interesting.
does as well. But I really
Okay.
think this could have had a traditional theatrical release, because
Probably.
in my mind, it felt in the same level, well, not same level, but the same way as the Tom Cruise Top Gun, the Top Gun sequel.
Right.
It's like it was a traditional movie, and
Right.
it just kind of played into it, and it just everybody's older, and
Yeah.
it's the same world, and it was an enjoyable movie
Yeah.
that happened to be a sequel, as opposed to when they did with Eddie Murphy,
Right.
Coming to America 2.
Right.
I did not appreciate that because it felt like it deserved to be released on streaming. It didn't feel like it was a
Oh.
Yeah, I heard that wasn't very good.
Release.
I loved the first Coming
Yeah.
to America, but
Yeah.
I never saw Coming. This was Coming to America.
Okay.
Yes, Coming, yes. And so I thought that was an interesting thing that Eddie Murphy would be in one, and then yes, so I was very concerned, but it was really good, pretty good movie.
Yeah,
So,
it's a surprise.
it's definitely not cheaply made. I mean,
and that's the
not
thing,
at all.
because what's weird about streaming and Netflix is that honestly, they don't really care if the movie is good or not, because they only get their money from people paying for the streaming service. So as long as they keep on putting in content and you're
Right.
still paying for your monthly subscription,
Right.
they don't care what's on their service as long as people keep on coming and paying that
I
monthly
know
subscription.
Amazon really doesn't care. 'Cause
So-
my movies are on there, so they really don't care.
I mean, but I don't think that any of the streaming services really quote unquote care what's on their platform
I don't know.
as long as people are staying and paying for that.
Right. I don't know.
Well,
Sweet,
it
for that
depends. Like sometimes there's like certain. I think there's certain brands or IPs that are really important. Like Disney has all these IPs that are.
Well, they have it all, but I think they would
Paramount
just
with Star Trek.
right. But they can put up. They'll just
Yeah.
keep on. Look, a perfect example is the Prodigy, Star Trek Prodigy, the animated series. It's really good. It was on Paramount Plus. They pulled it from Paramount Plus. They made a second season. It got released in France. So Netflix bought it, and now they released it on Netflix. So if Paramount really cared about it, they would have it on Paramount, but they don't. It's because, once again, as long as people are paying that subscription, that's all they care about. The bottom line is kind of keeping subscribers and getting more subscribers.
I would think that also like money is what they want.
Mhm.
So
Right,
like-
subscriber money.
Yeah,
That's,
so,
that's the
But if
thing.
they had released the Beverly Hills Cop in theaters, they would have gotten money from that,
Mhm.
plus the money. Like now it's only exclusively available on Netflix. You know, that,
Right.
I'm not. I'm not the CEO of Netflix. So,
You're not?
No, I've been checking my resume, but I don't think so.
I thought we were having a very different meeting today. I wore my best free shirt.
But if you think
And
about
free
it,
shoes.
if you're the president of Netflix, and as I've mentioned many a times, working at a movie theater for 10 years, the movie studios do not like the movie theaters because they're the middleman. They actually have to pay and rent out and get a percentage of the ticket sale. They have to pay for marketing, they have to pay for distribution. It's easier now because it's digital, you just send a file, but instead of doing all that, everybody who wants to see this movie has to pay for that subscription, and hence we're going to make more money. And the logistic thinking is if they had 41 million views, that means to them that it's something that people are coming to see.
I guess that's why Adam Sandler can keep making as many.
He keeps making
wants for
exactly,
Netflix.
and that's why the Happy Gilmore is supposedly coming directly
Yeah, I heard there was
to
a
Netflix. So
Yes.
that's the thing.
Interesting.
So let's see. So moving on. Let's see. From the
Let's hear the Vin Diesel.
wind, we're going to get to that one.
I'm anxious.
But all right, fine.
Yes!
Fine.
Yes.
So from the, I gotta
Sounds
go back.
juicy.
I gotta go back up. From the, now I know where I sit on the fame level department. None other than actor Paul Walter Hauser, who I personally know as Stingray in the Cobra Kai series, and was most recently the voice for embarrassment in the new Inside Out sequel, found himself apologizing for comments he made about actor Vin Diesel when being compared to him for his voice acting. Originally, during the interview, Paul says, so basically they're like, oh, he's kind of like Vin Diesel who does voice acting now as an actor. And Paul said, please don't say that. I like to think I'm on time and approachable. Sorry, I love people, but when I hear stories about Hollywood actors who get paid really well and mistreat people, I out them constantly and it's a blast. Now, about 2 weeks later, Paul now says, a few weeks back, I made a random comment about Vin Diesel. It started somewhat humorous, but unraveled into me dogging him out for behavior that I had heard about on multiple occasions from multiple sources. I had done a night shoot on a Friday, gotten 1 hour of sleep, and then flew out to LA from Atlanta at 6 a.m. to do a full day of press for Inside Out 2. I was exhausted, and in my fatigued state, I shot my mouth off and made a careless, needlessly mean-spirited comment. That comment was recorded, and it went viral. I no longer feel that way, and I am genuinely sorry for shooting my mouth off and not showing love to Vin, who I do not know and have never met. It isn't fair of me to make judgments of that kind, and even if some of those things turned out to be true, it is meant to shout them out and playfully attack someone. Vin Diesel, I apologize. Thank you for entertaining so many people and making them happy. I'm trying to do the same. Time for me to be quiet. I sometimes talk myself into idiocy. So, I don't know if you are aware, but there was this big feud about The Rock and Vin Diesel about him being unprofessional when on the set of the Fast and Furious movies, which led to The Rock and Vin Diesel not being in the next movie together, and it was a big exploding thing. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I did not know that there was drama behind it.
No
Yes,
idea.
it was in the Fast and Furious, I think it was 6, I don't know what number it was.
There's like 10 of them now, right?
Yeah, but it got viral, so it went out of control and so viral that there was like a big feud on the set between The Rock and Vin Diesel, and their contracts, like each person can only land a certain amount of hits on each other, and each person, like if he hits him once, the other guy's contracts, he can hit him back once, and there can't be any winner. So it's all crazy stuff that came out about Vin Diesel.
They do know it's like fiction, right?
But it had stemmed from The Rock saying how unprofessional Vin Diesel was on set for his own movie that he's the producer of.
Gotcha.
And it went all crazy. And then it kind of died down, but there were people who were kind of validating the comments, behind the scenes and what happened. So for him to hear about this and then just blurt it out, and now all of a sudden, obviously, he had gotten some type of backlash. The studio must be like, knock it off, that he had to make an apology.
Maybe Vin Diesel showed up at his house.
Right.
And for a guy who's never met him, I think that's hilarious that he would say that in an interview and then not immediately correct himself, not immediately do anything, but then 2 weeks later makes this huge apology.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty pathetic, I think. I don't think you should speak about anyone that you haven't had personal experience with. And even if you've had personal experience, which I've had a lot of personal experience, a lot of people I'd like to say things, even then, So I think the guy is a fool for spreading gossip. It's basically gossip if he wasn't there.
He did apologize.
Yeah, he apologized.
2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So it's like
Better late than never.
in the way we
definitely.
are today in social media, for him to say something in an interview, unless you immediately say, my bad, I'm sorry,
Right.
he's really not sorry. He's more sorry that it went the way it went.
He's sorry he got in trouble.
Right.
He's sorry he got crap for it.
And I'm wondering how much crap he got
Probably a
for
lot.
it.
Probably a lot.
Especially because Vin Diesel is pretty big on the totem pole as it goes.
My guess is that he knew someone was telling him maybe stories, so maybe he got like a first-hand story from someone and then was spreading it. If not, the guy's just a total gossip. Like, I mean, but it's a gossip either way. It's not your story to tell.
And Man Jenny, since you are an actress, producer, writer, content creator,
Yeah.
and you've been running ragged these past few months doing tons and tons of things,
Yeah.
is his excuse a valid excuse? Like, you're probably a little beat right now. Would you be like, oh, I just did a shoot, I was in LA, I was tired, so I just kind of blurted my mouth out? Do you think that's a valid excuse?
I don't like excuses. I think you say something and you take ownership or you don't. So the excuses, it's like, shut up. But maybe the general public likes excuses more than I do. I can't stand them and I don't like explanations. So you either said something and you believe it or you don't. But this guy seems full of it, and I'll say on the record that I don't have respect for you, and that's what I have to say.
All right, so speaking of people being ousted and people we don't know, from the
let's hear it.
No Thanks, I'm Out department.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, at a casino in California, none other than George Lopez abruptly stopped his set and walked off stage roughly 30 minutes early before the end of his stand-up routine. The casino says, once Mr. Lopez walked into his dressing room, neither he nor his team offered an apology to the casino or guests, nor any explanation as to why Mr. Lopez did not want to continue and left 15 minutes later. He was transported back to the airport by the Eagle Mountain Casino Transportation, which was the casino that he was at. George's team responded with a statement. It says, George's personal security team worked with the venue security staff to maintain order, ensure safety, and eject disruptive individuals. Unfortunately, the casino security team was not adequate to accomplish this task. George is not obligated to perform in an unsafe environment, and he feels badly for those who came to see his show and were unable to do so as a result. Immediately, the casino then responded by saying it was the job of Lopez's private security team to inform the casino security if they wanted to escort anyone out, which never occurred.
Right.
Under the casino's discretion, no guests were unruly or provided an unsafe environment. Of note, the casino offered all attendees a full reimbursement of their tickets and free tickets of equal or lesser value to any future shows at the casino. Also, this is the second time that they had to do so, as in April of this year, George Lopez had canceled his performance due to a medical emergency. Now, you used to do stand-up, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that? If you did a venue and you felt unsafe, you're like, all right, I'm out?
See, it's very vague because I heard about this a few weeks ago.
Okay.
It happened about a month or two ago.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
It was kind of unclear in the reports, so since the reports were so unclear and I wasn't there, it's unwise to really comment. But I mean, unless someone's physically getting up on the stage and getting really close, I would just continue. And I think that, I mean, if there's no physical danger, it's a little crazy to walk off.
What about you? What do you think about that, for instance? Like, if you were at a casino and you were seeing a stand-up show and the guy just walks off.
I mean, I'd be disappointed. I wasn't there. I don't like. Was there a recording of it?
They do have. If you go online, you can see some footage of him
and
just.
some hecklers or something.
Apparently, there were hecklers, people shouting out,
Right.
and he just stopped and he went. He didn't even address. He just.
Right.
I don't know. It depends. I guess whatever they were saying. You know, if they're pointing at him.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I didn't hear it. So, but if I was in the audience, I'd be like, hey, what's going on here? I paid money for this, and you know, it's one thing. I came here to see George Lopez. I don't know what this other ticket's for, but it's not for George Lopez. So
It's weird because you know how algorithms work on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I was looking into the thing. I saw the footage of him just walking off. Yeah, I saw the footage.
What were they doing? They're verbally handling things.
He was just
anything
yelling out stuff from the audience.
Yeah, well, handle it. That's
And
your
then
job.
he just went doo, doo, doo. Like he didn't even address the hecklers at all. He just turned around and just walked off.
Yeah.
But
comedian, like you should be used to that.
Right.
You know, like
Correct.
you don't understand
Yeah.
comedy. And you
I
probably
like
have
the
to deal with-
heckler.
Yeah, you have to deal with
I
hecklers
love
all
the
time.
hecklers. I got it.
So unless they're saying like, hey, I'm gonna harm you
Exactly.
physically, like, you know, he should play with them.
Right.
I've been to plenty of comedy shows and I've seen the comedians sit there playing with the hecklers and it's funny for the most
Right.
part.
It'd be funny.
so the algorithms now on YouTube show me other comedians getting heckled.
Oh.
And I'm watching this, and
Kramer.
they handle it like troopers.
A lot of it times
they
it's
just,
better.
They just interact and they talk to them. There was this one where the person cried.
Oh.
The heckler cried.
Oh.
The comedian made the heckler cry
Oh boy.
because he said a joke and he looked in her direction when he said it, and then she just had to keep on saying stuff. And he's like, "Look, this is you have to imagine there's an imaginary wall between here. All these people have come to see a performance, and you can't keep on interrupting." And she kept on interrupting, and the people were trying to he's like, "You don't have to cry," but she was crying.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm like, "Oh, this is interesting." I mean, obviously it was a smaller venue, and it was a more intimate setting, and the George Lopez thing was a stage,
Right.
and it was people far away. And I just think that, I mean, I used to like George Lopez
Yeah.
for years, but then I would say his more recent actions, I'm kind of turning off from him, and for him to just be like, "All right, I'm out," like he's like, he
Yeah.
couldn't even say, "Hey, you know, this I don't appreciate the heckling. If it keeps up, I'm gonna walk off."
Right.
At least
Call your security
said
team.
that.
Have a whistle. Have something.
mean,
have someone handle
We've,
them.
we've
There's
talked
people.
about when Dave Chappelle got attacked.
Right. Right.
Didn't that happened recently with Jerry Seinfeld, I saw.
Jerry
That he
Seinfeld?
got heckled. Yeah.
Recently.
He got heckled. It was, I don't know if it was a stand. No, wait, it was the stand up.
Stand up, yeah.
When he was like, the person was trying to be political.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Wow, you solved the Middle East at a comedy
Yeah,
show."
yeah.
And he just turned into a joke. Like, why are you coming to a comedy show to try to be political when I am not
Oh, is
being
that his
political?
wife? I think.
It
Right?
was,
In
no, it was,
Israel.
it was something about Israel.
Yeah,
It
because his
was, yeah.
wife donates to Israel. I think she donated like 1,000 or 10,000, something
But
like
you
that.
came to
A comedy show. That was
Seinfeld comedy show.
Right.
All Seinfeld fans. So of
Right.
course, you know, if you're going to be attacking him, everyone's going to boo you and escort you off stage. And Jerry Seinfeld, he's like an amazing comedian. Like he's quick. Like any
Yeah.
comedian, you know, if you're going to be a heckler, like you need to be just as quick as them, and they have a lot more experience doing that.
Yeah,
than you do.
yeah, usually, yeah.
So-
Jimmy Kennedy is good with hecklers.
So that is it for the news. So we're going to take
Okay.
we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more. It came from the radio.
Hey everybody, this is Todd McFarlane of the
So now
record-setting
we're behind the
Spawn
scenes.
comic
So I was
series.
saying, if you hold
And
up
if you're
the
looking
it's
for
barking
any
out.
kind of
Oh,
cool
yeah.
conversation
Absolutely.
about creators, about entertainment, about all that good stuff, you go to It Came From the Radio.
Have you
You're
ever,
listening to the
do
right
you know what it
spot.
sounds like if you record like this?
It sounds a little muffled
This is Quentin
sometimes,
Flynn,
and
a
sometimes
popular
I
voice
get
actor known
distracted.
for
I
Axel,
hear the
Timon,
tumbling, I hear the
and
tapping.
Ryan Gear series. And you're listening to
It's really
It Came
good.
From the Radio. Stick around.
And like I said,
Hey, I'm Mike Kingston, the writer and creator of Headlocks.
And I'm WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler, and guess what you're listening to? You're listening to It Came From the Radio!
And it was picking up the vibration.
Hi, this is
from the
Amy
speaker.
Jo Johnson,
I'm like, oh, I'm not
writer-director
gonna do
from the
that
film
again.
The Space Between, and you're listening to It Came From the Radio.
Meet
Grimlock having fun on It Came From the
So that's why,
Radio!
right, that's
Meet Greg Berger also.
Now, back to our show.
And welcome back to It Came From the Radio, the official Greg Con. This is your host, Mark Torres, speaking at the East Meadow Public Library for our 82nd live show. We are here with Man Jenny Feldy, my co-host,
Hello.
and our special guest who we're going to be talking to with and about, which is also our special guest, Francis Bonnet.
Whoa.
So, Francis, we actually have had you here, I'm going to say in December, if my memory serves me correctly. What has happened between then and now?
So,
Let's hear it.
I couldn't talk about it back in December.
Right.
But since then, my comic strips for Fairy Tales has been syndicated by King Features.
Okay.
which is a really big deal. I'm really excited about it. But back then it was like contract negotiations, so you can't really talk about it then. But it's great. So like now my comic is on Comics Kingdom, and I share the same digital space as Dennis the Menace, and Ethan Bailey, High and Lois, and like all these great
Popeye.
And Popeye. Yeah, I mean there's a ton Mutts, Zitz, Hagar the Horrible. It's great.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Very mainstream.
So being
Going mainstream.
part of the King's feature umbrella, does that now give you the ability to cross over with the other comic book strips? Or could you always do that?
When you say crossover,
Like if you have your characters appear in their book and their characters appear in their book?
I guess it really depends because they're more of a distributor, so they distribute my comic, and there's certain things in my contract that I can and can't do. They have the rights to publish it first and everything like that. I suppose if I wanted to work with someone else, I could. I probably just have to run it by one of the editors over there and see what they thought. It's just not something that I've ever thought. I've done crossovers before I was syndicated with other, web cartoonists.
Right.
But I doubt Dennis the Menace would want to.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Like, if there's anyone that you could pick to have like a mashup crossover with your work, which characters would you pick on this network?
There's so many classic ones. I mean, actually, it'd be kind of fun to do Blondie.
Okay.
I would just be fun to see like how would Dagwood likes to eat, my character likes to eat. Let's see them have like an eating contest, see who would win.
Contest. Interesting. I had an idea actually for Dennis the Menace to do like an inspired type of short film recently, but that's a whole nother story. And there's someone involved that I don't know if I can work with him for legal reasons. So I don't know. We'll see. Or legal reasons and jealous wife reasons. Yes.
This sounds really interesting.
Hello. It actually is really interesting. It is, but
Is that a movie?
Basically the star who I would want to work with, his like wife hates me. I never met her, but she banned me.
What'd you do?
I just interviewed the guy. That's it. Apparently that's enough for a lot of women.
I hope my wife is
Yeah.
today.
Well, I don't know.
Did you interview him?
Just interviewed in public, no touching. I don't think I even went like this. I don't. Maybe.
When you're talking, you spit on him or something.
Maybe.
That happens sometimes.
I don't know. Yeah, it happens. I don't know. That's what happens.
And then when he came home, he's like, "Honey, you never interviewed me like that before."
Yeah, and well, she definitely didn't interview me like that because it was a great interview, and I don't think that many people can reach that level. Sorry.
I'm jealous.
Maybe, I don't know, man. But anyway, Dennis the Menace, back to you. Okay, so Blondie, we might have a crossover with Blondie if it's allowed and you want to.
Probably not, but in some alternate universe,
Right.
I'm sure it's happened.
Correct. Right.
So walk us through the formation of the 3-panel joke, because that's what it mostly is for the comic strip, right? It's a 3-panel joke.
3-panel. Sometimes we do 4 panels, but for the most part, yeah. 3.
So how does that come from inception to published work? Like, is there a certain process you go through, or is it just I think this is funny, I'm going to make it work?
Basically that. I mean, the process that I work now is still the same as it always has been. I come up with something that I think is funny. I'll send it. I send a month's worth of comic strips over to my editor now. So it's great because like there's so many things like, oh, you can't spell. When she's talking about me, I'm
Right.
like, you can't spell. That's grammatically incorrect. So it's great to have somebody who can actually tweak it a little bit. So if Ailish is watching, thank you for your help. You helped make my comic strip better. But it's pretty much the same process. I put my ideas together. I have storylines going through my comic strip now, so sometimes it's hard, and I'll sit there like for an hour just to come up with the idea for one comic strip, because I like to have the comic strip end with something funny every single time. But then you have this narrative that runs through like multiple strips. So I actually have the story I'm working on now that will start to appear at the end of this month on Comics Kingdom, about like Little Pig number 3, one of my characters, and he goes on one of those talk shows, the singing shows, where you like American Idol type.
American Got Talent.
Yes, but but this one is called Voice Idol.
Voice Idol.
I made up that. Yeah. Hopefully, there's no show called Voice Idol.
I haven't
sued.
heard of it.
So I'm doing this storyline, and it's going to run like 2 or 3 months. But it takes a while, and this is like, I really challenged myself with this one because like, I'm not like the best artist in the world, but I had to look at a lot of like American Idol and The Voice, kind of like pictures of the studio to kind of get it so it looks like these characters are in the studio, and you've got like these 3 little panels to actually draw it.
Right.
And I have some of the strips that have like 7 or 8 characters in one panel. It's just a lot.
Oh, that's
So
a lot.
it's pushed myself more than I ever have in any of my other comics before with this upcoming storyline. So I'm excited for people to see it. So I'm looking forward to it coming out.
So you said you want to see if something's funny. So when you determine something's funny, how do you determine it? Some people, one person I worked with would call his mom, someone much older than me, in their 40s, on intercom to approve of all of the jokes we write together. That's one person's process. Do you have someone that you run things by, or is it if you like it, that's it? Like, what's your process of
If your
finding
kids laugh,
something's
is
funny?
that it?
Sometimes
You ask your 2-year-old.
Yeah, I asked my 2-year-old, and she gives me great advice. No, so for if I'm laughing, I feel like sometimes my sense of humor can be weird.
Okay.
But I'm like, if I'm laughing, all right, that's a good first step.
Okay.
That means someone else is probably going to think it's funny. But then I'll ask my wife to look at it. I'll ask my teenage daughter because if she laughs at it or she rolls her eyes at it, I'm like, all right, I know that there's something there.
Okay.
So those are people who run it by.
Luckily, they're close by, right?
Yeah, for the most part, they're in the other room.
Yeah,
Or
okay.
I'll work on it, and then later on in a day, I'll be like, hey, can you read like 10 strips and tell me what you think?
So 2 people, basically.
That's basically it. And then now my editor sees it,
Gotcha. Okay.
So
but
the
she doesn't
editor-
tell me whether she thinks it's funny.
Oh,
That's what I was saying. Like, does the
Interesting.
editor have that ability to be like, well, this isn't funny.
Right.
Do it again.
Right.
No, I mean it's
Higher
been,
left.
it's been pretty easy so far. Where like nothing's been rejected. I think it's just like don't do anything like offensive, and you're
Okay.
good.
Well, that's hard nowadays because it's like I don't even know what's offensive anymore. I'm starting to really lose touch. Truly.
I hear you. Somebody told me the other day that you're not allowed to say, I don't know if I should even say this, but you're not supposed to say like white on rice. Like that's like
Okay.
wrong to say. And I was like, but the color of rice is white. I'm like, I don't know.
Or you guys, but that's been
Yeah,
a
you
thing
guys
for a while.
can't say. Yeah, so I don't know. That's why I have an editor. So
Right.
if I say something offensive, and one of the other editors said like, we know you don't do anything offensive in your comic strip, but like let's say you make a joke or you say something and like it's offensive to someone from like used to mean something else 500 years ago, we'll just ask you to change it.
Okay.
That hasn't happened yet.
Oh, thank God. I don't think that would be a big issue for you. I don't.
Yeah, no, for my stuff, I try to stay away from anything that would be like overly offensive, nothing political,
Right.
because I look at my comics and this is not for like all comics, just for me, it's an escape from reality. I'm like, I want to look at I want somebody to come into my comic, I want them to read this, spend this 3 seconds reading my comic strip, and they get a laugh, and it just takes them out of like the suckiness of
Like
reality.
cheese. Like it's like cheese has a morphine-like effect. So your comics could be like cheese for some people.
Yeah, or like Cheese Whiz or something like that.
But they won't wake up. They don't wake up with a hangover because you can get hangovers from cheese.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I got involved with cheese very heavily during the first year of the pandemic, and it really calmed my nerves. But I'd wake up mad all the time, and then I had extra layer on me, like a year later.
So don't eat cheese and drive is what you're saying?
Don't eat bowls of cheese and expect to wake up feeling awesome. And cheese and drive, actually, it could really sedate you. If it's a long drive, I wouldn't recommend it.
No heavy machinery and
cheese
no drive
and rice.
when you're eating cheese and rice.
And maybe your comics can do that for some people.
That would be great.
They can escape into that instead of cheese.
Well, that's the goal.
Or alcohol.
Yeah,
Or-
and it's also like an escape for me too. Like I like to, go into my own little world. And, not think about things.
Right.
I'm stuck on bowl of cheese.
Yes.
I do like cheese.
Is it just like what kind of cheese is in the bowl?
Well, I like pepper jack and a Munster.
So it's like
salmon.
slices?
Just
So I would just
Or
take like a
cubes?
block and I would just like basically just bite off a piece, because that's what I do. I bite off pieces of butter and cheese and I just put it in the bowl, and then you microwave it, and it's a whole. I call it keto pizza.
You
It's
don't dunk like chips or
no, just eat the cheese. It's really delicious. Yeah, I really love it. I would eat it all day.
I do
if I
like
could.
cheese, but I don't think I've ever just eaten a bowl.
It gives you like a tingle too. I'll get like if you eat at least like 500, 600 calories, you get like a body high, and it's really wonderful.
Is it just cheese or all dairy?
Just cheese. Oh, well, cheese, dairy, but cheese for me does it. I don't know. I haven't done a full test on this, but if you need to go to sleep, cottage cheese, dairy, and rice is also proven.
I do drink a lot of milk.
Okay.
I love milk. I love cereal. That's like my go-to.
Oh, cereal, yeah. Well,
Fruity Pebbles.
Oh boy.
That's the best.
Yeah, sure. I have a 4-page article on that. It's for another day. But yeah, cheese, it can help you fall asleep, but waking up might be a problem. So, that's true.
So you're right, Archie.
Sorry. Yes.
Yes. So yes, I also write Archie. We were talking about
Does he like
Sabrina. Archie, Jughead likes cheese.
Okay. Oh.
We were talking about Sabrina before, so
Yes.
I just recently, February, I had a Sabrina Valentine story come out.
Oh.
So I have another story coming out this Halloween, also featuring Sabrina. It is an Archie story, but Sabrina is a pretty big character.
Okay.
But it's fun to write for Sabrina. I haven't written a lot of stories with her in it until recently.
Why?
They just wanted me to do Archie stuff, and then
Oh.
basically so the editor over there will say, okay, we need a story for this. We need a Halloween story. Sometimes they'll give you like a general idea, like we want it to be, we want to have these characters in it in this kind of a setting. So go ahead and write a script, or basically you write up a synopsis and then they pick the synopsis later.
Right.
This one they wanted to have Sabrina in it. So I was like, all right, so I'll put Sabrina in it, and she's got like this new like villain, like her name is Amber. So she's also.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much because
Right,
it's spoil
right.
the story, but yeah, this was a fun one. This is a good one.
And that'll be coming out on Comics Kingdom?
No. So
Or
Comics King,
separate.
Suburban Fairy Tales is separate from Archie.
Okay.
Suburban Fairy Tales is my comic strip, so I own that like 100%. I signed with King Features, so now they distribute it, and that's separate. Archie, those are their characters. I'm just like one of the writers.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's a cog in the Archie wheel.
Yes. Okay.
So with Archie, did they send you like a list of do's and don'ts for the characters, or they said pretty much you can do whatever, and then the editor will be like, no, yes.
Well, there is a character sheet. Basically, it tells you about the personality of every character in Archie. But being that I've read Archie since I was a kid, I'm pretty familiar. I mean, there's some of the newer ones, like they create characters all the time. There's new characters, so then maybe I missed that story, so I'll have to read about them. But for the most part, like I know how Archie behaves. I know how like Jughead would react, Betty and Veronica. So yeah, just as long as you're familiar with it. There was a story that Bingo Wilkins. I don't know if anybody. I wasn't familiar with his case. He's an Archie character. He appeared like in the 60s and 70s, and they wanted me to do a story. So it was that Wilkin boy story. So he's this character. He's like Jughead's cousin. He's in a band, and anyway, I had no idea about this character, so I went back. I bought a book about like a collection. I read through all of it just so I could become familiar with the stories from like the 1960s, 70s, 80s, so that I would know enough to write a story featuring Bingo. So sometimes you got to do a little bit of research.
Does he play bingo?
He doesn't. He plays guitar and he sings.
Where's okay, interesting.
Maybe he did play B-I-N-G.
Well, what would you like to write during this lifetime that you haven't written already, or illustrate?
We were talking about Netflix before. I would love to write like a Netflix, like of my characters, like an animated show or movie featuring my characters. I would love to write a script. I'd love to do the voices, some voices. That is like, I reached like my goal since I was a kid was always like I want to be a syndicated cartoonist. I want to be a syndicated cartoonist. And I got close. Like I worked like with other syndicated cartoonists. Like I would sometimes ghost write for them. So I'm like, I got close to being syndicated because they're syndicated. I did Archie. I'm like, that's pretty cool. But then this thing with the syndication of Suburban Fairy Tales, I was like, I made my goal. All right, now what's my next goal? To get an animated show. It doesn't have to be Netflix. You know, you know, Disney, if you're watching or listening, you know, I work with you, Warner Brothers.
Disney would just buy you out. They would not. They would not be like,
okay.
yeah, let's do like
for you know a few $1 million, you know.
Unless that's your number, a few million.
Like 50 million.
50.
I could be bought. You know, I'll just create something else then.
Have you thought that if you did not own the Suburban Fairy Tales, would you have another?
Oh yeah,
You already have.
I have another idea that if whatever, you know, some companies like we want to buy Suburban Fairy Tales, you know, I mean I've been doing the comic strip for 18 years now, so like, and I have plenty of ideas, but I do have like other comic strip ideas in my head, other like stories that would love to tell one day. I don't want to take away from Suburban Fairy Tales, and then, you know, if you spread yourself too thin, and the quality, you know, will lower, and I don't want that to happen. But if some company comes along, you know, Paramount, let's just say like, oh, we want to buy your comic, we're going to put it on Nickelodeon. Here's $50 million. Like, okay, thank you very much. Now it's all yours, and now I'm going to work on my other ideas that I have.
Are there any things you wouldn't want to write or illustrate? Any topics or characters or personas? You're like, nah, no dinosaurs, no kings and queens.
I have ideas for like, I would love to do like horror stories, science fiction, fantasy. I have another idea that I want to do, like more like this whole graphic novel series. It's like this post-apocalyptic kind of a story that it's completely different from Suburban Fairy Tales. But it's like only so much time in the day to really do that.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Archie has a very wide thing. Like they've done everything. I've seen when Archie died, when they had a crossover with the Punisher, they had Archie versus Aliens, I believe, or Predator or something like that. They had the horror Archie series. So would you find that you can do that into that world and to have that outlet that way?
I would love to do that, and you know, if they wanted me to move away from classic Archie to do some of the horror stuff, that would be great. But I do have ideas of like my own thing, which is what Jenny says.
Right.
So like that I would like to do. But yeah, like, you know, whatever Archie needs, like I'm there for them. If they want me to do some horror, I absolutely try. I think they know I'm good with the humor, so that's why they kind of kept me with classic Archie. Like they know. The reason I got hired from Archie is like, oh, we know you do this comic strip. You know, they thought it was funny. It's kind of like the same kind of humor as Archie. So I was pretty safe to give a story to.
Are we gonna see any like trans or they/them characters?
There are in Archie right now. There are characters. Yeah, so like that's what when I was saying. There's new characters that are introduced. So like I don't think it's gonna happen with like any of the like Archie's not gonna say one day, hey, I'm trans now. I'm not gonna change Archie. You know, none of the original like characters, but yeah, introducing new characters. You know, Kevin Keller is gay. He's a gay character. I've had him in some of my stories before. So yeah, like Archie's very, very, very diverse and very progressive.
Interesting.
I don't think a lot of people know that about Archie.
I didn't know.
Now you know.
Stupid question, you know.
What is the basis or the long-standing tradition of Archie? Like, what makes Archie Archie? So I know as a kid, I was like, that's something that I might not be a fan of, and it's just kind of just there. Like I said, I did see that Back to Riverdale, so I was like, I don't like this at all. So what is the essence of Archie?
If you're talking about classic Archie, like the original Archie, he always was like just the like American like teenage boy. You know, he's like, you know, 16, 17 years old, and he's just supposed to be like, he's from Riverdale, right? But Riverdale could really be anywhere in the United States. So he's kind of meant to represent like that, you know, we all know a kid like Archie, or we all know, you know, somebody like Reggie, like the prankster, and like a Betty and a Veronica. It's like, these characters are characters who are just like classic teenagers, you know, and they just are put into funny situations. They have like unique personalities, and they just riff off each other. And that's why Archie's been around for over 80 years. You know, it's just really just resonates with people. Like, and you know, I don't know, you know, how popular it is. Like, you go to like a you know, if someone's doing superheroes, like if they're gonna go into a comic book store, like, yeah, I want Archie. Yeah. But like, if you go to the supermarket, you see these Archies here. I was just wandering around the library here. I saw Archie digests up over in the like, young adult section. And when I was in London, like I would go to all these comic book stores there just because I'm like, to comics, so I check it out, and there were like a lot of people asking about Archie while I was there, and I don't want to say like, oh hey, I do Archie, There's some little girl too, so probably think I'm some weirdo.
That'd be funny.
Hey, little girl, you want to?
I heard your question.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to get arrested while I'm in London, but it was just cool to hear like them ask about Archie stuff, and to see like they had like a whole like row of Archie comics. You don't always see that in every comic book store here, at least near me. Like usually like Archie's like a small little section in like comic book store. But if you go to Barnes and Noble, you'll see Archie collections. If you go to like the supermarket, you'll see like Archie Digest there. They're impulse buys.
Impulse buy, like cheese.
Like cheese.
Archie's. Oh my God, Archie's. That's actually not a bad idea.
They should do Archie branded cheese called Archie's. Yeah,
why not? Go ahead. So what character have you created that you would like your daughter to be like, or your daughters, right? Both two daughters?
I do have two daughters, yeah.
Are there any characters you would like them to be like that you created?
Or have you created characters based on?
So that's pretty funny.
Sure.
So my older daughter now, she's 15, and I've been doing this comic strip before she was born. So when she was old enough to start reading, she started reading my comics, and she's like, "Daddy, I want you to put me in your comics."
Oh.
So there are some comics where I have this little girl, and my daughter's name's Caitlin. This little girl named Caitlin who was interacting with some of my characters. Like she wasn't a main character; she was in there once in a while, but I did that because I wanted to make her happy, wanted her to see herself in there.
That's nice.
So there's that. My other daughter, Clara, she's not old enough to read yet because she's not even 2.
Yeah. So you think she can't read?
Maybe she can. She's hiding.
Right.
If she probably is like a genius, she probably gets that from me. But it's still too early to tell like what her personality is gonna be like. She talks, but you don't know when they're 2. I think you kind of figure it out more when you're a little bit older.
That's what I hear.
Like 3, 4 years old.
We'll find out. We'll have to stay tuned and see.
I just had the weirdest idea is that when you're having your parental issues with Caitlin, you're gonna put it in the comments so she can read it.
Oh wow!
And be like, "Oh, I get it, Dad."
That's
a good idea.
That's actually a great idea.
And be dating somebody, you put him in there, and he gets killed.
Oh my God! Yeah, right. If she starts dating.
Well, I told her, I'm like, if you start dating anyone, there's gonna be like an interview process. You're not just going to go out with this person. I'm going to be interviewing this person. There's going to be like a lot of Q&A.
Get the resume.
Exactly, and it'll be like this is going to be a probation period. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and she's like, Dad. She's at that age. Dad always rolls her eyes at me. I'm not cool anymore. I used to be cool.
That's what 40-year-old women should do. I'm basically 40. So
I thought you said 4-year-old women.
Men and women of all ages should be doing this. If their parents aren't doing them for them, you should do a very strict screening process, not just open your legs or close your legs or whatever.
God.
Well, I'm just saying, that's what a lot of people do. You gotta check some resumes. If you can't hire him to do it or someone else's dad, you gotta do it yourself. Really. DIY. Listen, I'm just trying to preach being safe and smart and having screenings, just like for a job.
I don't want to think about that though.
You should be screening a love partner more than a job. Really.
I mean, I don't disagree.
You mentioned having the dream to have your characters be animated, and you were going to do some of the voices. Is that something you already know what each and every single one sounds like in your head?
I kind of practice in the shower sometimes. Of what my characters would sound like. It changes sometimes. I guess in the shower you can't hear yourself. You know how when you're talking and then you hear a recording of yourself later, it's like, oh, who's that guy? Oh, that's me.
Right.
So I kind of know, but I have to record myself and actually play it back. I haven't done that. I just kind of do it in the shower. Do the voices in the shower.
Yeah.
So it's social media time. Where can people find out more about your book, and where can they get more Archie stuff and Suburban Fairy Tales?
So I'm on Instagram at Suburban Fairy Tales. So check me out there. Check out my Suburban Fairy Tales comic on Comics Kingdom. So go to comicskingdom.com and just search for Suburban Fairy Tales. It's in alphabetical order. I'm also on Twitter, or X as we call it now,
Right.
at Francis Bonnet. I'm also on Facebook, with Suburban Fairy Tales. I'm on that new art app, Kara, Suburban Fairy Tales. I don't know what's
Kara,
called.
heard of it,
Yep. And Threads, also at Suburban Fairy Tales.
So in Suburban Fairy Tales, you can read all that for free, right?
You can, if you subscribe to Comics Kingdom, you can read ahead, so you can get newer stories before anybody else. It's like $3 a month, so it's not very expensive. Totally worth it.
So you see, it goes back to what I was saying before. Just any content, just as long as they get the streaming numbers, and as long as people are paying that $3, get more stuff in there. You could sneak in a couple little stories.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like Comics Kingdom. It's like it's not just my comic on there. It's got, like I said, Dennis the Menace, Zitz, Mutts, Blondie, all these great comics that you can read.
And for Archie stuff, where's the best place in your mind to get Archie from? Directly from you? Can they get directly from
You can get it directly from me, but that's really if you're in person, like at a convention. Otherwise, just if you go to archie.com or archiecomics.com, you can order right from their store. If you want to search for books by me, just type my name, Francis Bonnet, into the little search bar on the top, and then all the books that they have in stock that I've written.
So now for non-technical guys like me, if I typed in the search bar and then got the results, could I then save that link and put it on my website? So that way when they click on your website and they go Archie, it goes to only your Archie stuff.
You could, and
see, that's really,
yeah, you could do that. And if you go to my Instagram and you go to I have like all the links on my profile. It has a link to Archie Comics, which is what you just said. So you can just click on that. But that's like a lot of steps. So it's easier if you just go, like, for people who are listening, just go to Archie Comics and do it that way.
Those are the only ones that we want people to buy. The ones that
only mine.
Right,
only mine.
Because yours is the best one.
Yeah, mine's are the best.
So we're almost out of time. So, Man Jenny Feldy, do you have any final thoughts?
Prioritize, and always floss.
Okay. Francis, do you have any final thoughts?
I agree with flossing. People with bad breath, hopefully not me right now. You want to avoid those people.
So, my final thought is this. Once again, thank you for coming down to the East Meadow Public Library.
Thank you for having me. I
our
appreciate
second
it.
live show. The East Meadow Public Library has tons and tons of events and programming, most of which is free. And for more information on that, go to www.eastmeadow.info. Our next live show, which will be on Wednesday, August the 14th, we're going to have a pianist. I was going to say, make sure I say it the right way. Frank Barbera, and he'll be here, and I think we're going to be giving away, a free lesson, maybe piano lesson. That'll be kind of cool. So make sure you guys go check that out. So that about does it for this week on the Came From the Radio. Join us right here, and every week on this radio station. You miss any part of the show?
Tough.
Make sure you go to our website www.camefromradio.com. Listen to our archives. Will be up in a week or so, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to It Came From the Radio with Matt Torres. The views of the show's hosts and guests did not necessarily reflect that of the management,